We have with us tonight a true patriot, a great American, a World War II veteran, a movie star, author. Where does the list end? PFC, Sidney Phillips. Sid, welcome to the Scuttlebutt Radio program.
Thank you very much, Cal.
It's great to have you here with us tonight.
Sid, how in the world, being a doctor in all of this, how did you get into the service, and especially, how did you get in the Marine Corps?
Remember, at the time of Pearl Harbor, I was fresh out of high school. I was 17 years old and had no ambition or concept of what I wanted to do in life. I simply had a job downtown with the U.S. Engineers Department, and it paid $90 a month, which was a very good salary. I was saving the money to go to Auburn, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do when I went to Auburn. But my father said that we kids went to college, period. There was no discussion on that. So at the time of Pearl Harbor, I was just a 17-year-old idiot.
That's what the Marine Corps wanted.
And that's what the Marine Corps wanted. You're right.
But how did you get in the Corps? I mean, did they have lines like we do now with different branches, or what?
I was, when the news came over the radio, I was sitting at a soda fountain there at Albrighton Woods on Dolphin and Ann. And one of my closest friends was a soda jerk. His name was W.O. Brown. And we were just sitting there when a lady rushed in the side door and screamed, "Turn on the radio." And they had a small radio there, so W.O. turned the radio on, and they were talking about Pearl Harbor on every station. And it turned out that I was the only person in the drugstore that knew where Pearl Harbor was. I had two uncles.
You were a Murphy graduate, right?
I was a Murphy.
See, that's why.
I was a Murphy graduate, but Pearl Harbor was not a household name at that time. And my two uncles in the Navy, one of them had been stationed in Pearl Harbor, so I was familiar with the name, and I could show off by telling the crowd. There were about 20 people in the drugstore. I could tell the crowd where Pearl Harbor was, and that it was in Hawaii.
Well, Sid, after you did join, you got an up close and personal view of some of those areas around Pearl Harbor, and a little further out into the Pacific, didn't you?
Well, W.O. Brown, the soda jerk, said, "Sid, let's go join the Navy in the morning." And I said, okay. Now, W.O. Was a senior in high school, and W.O. really was tired of high school. He wasn't.
Wasn't we all?
He wasn't that patriotic, I don't think. But I said, sure, we'll go join the Navy in the morning. So the next morning, we were down at the recruiting station. All of the recruiting stations were in the old I can't think of the name of the building now, but it was right there in downtown Mobile. And we went over and looked for the line for the Navy, and the line for the Navy was about 300 yards long. So we walked up to the front of the line. There was no line for the Marine Corps. It was vacant. But this Marine recruiting sergeant came over there and said, "Do you boys want to kill Japs?" And we said,
"Thank you."
And we said, "Yeah, that's the idea."
He's allowed to say it.
Oh, well, he's allowed. Hey, I'm backing him up.
And we said, "But we're going to join the Navy." And he said, "No," he said, "you can't get in the Navy. Your parents are married. They won't take you." So we ended up joining the Marine Corps for no other reason. We had never heard of Parris Island. We didn't know anything.
You know a lot about it now, don't you, brother?
We learned in a hurry.
Oh yes. Well, once you made it through Parris Island, obviously you spent some time in the Pacific. What are probably some of the most memorable of your locations in the Pacific that are recalled in some of your books and the movies?
Well, we first went overseas through San Francisco, went to Wellington, New Zealand, and we were supposed to stay at least 6 months in Wellington, New Zealand for training, but it turned out that they had discovered that the Japanese were building an airport on this island called Guadalcanal that nobody had ever heard of. So our high command decided that they must not be allowed to complete and make that airport operational, that we had to go in there and take it before it became operational. So I was in the 1st Regiment of the 1st Marine Division. The 5th Regiment was already in New Zealand. Our 7th Regiment had gone out first, and they were in Samoa. So we were minus 1 regiment there in Wellington. You know, the 1st Marine Division had the 1st, 5th, 7th, and 11th regiments. The 11th Regiment was artillery, and it was divided up among the 3 infantry regiments. So we went up to Guadalcanal without our 7th Regiment. Our 7th Regiment was really considered our best regiment. It had more old-timers in it than the 5th and the 1st. But we went into Guadalcanal without our 7th Regiment. They didn't bring our 7th Regiment into Guadalcanal until October.
And so that's where you first experienced your fighting in the Pacific, was at
Correct.
Guadalcanal.
It was on Guadalcanal.
How long were you on Guadalcanal, Sid?
Well, I went in the first day, which was August the 7th, and they took us off of that miserable island December 22nd. So we were there from August 7th till December 22nd.
And no email, no internet, no way to write, no way to find out what's going on back home, right? You were there for the duration, I believe.
Occasionally, you'd get some mail into Guadalcanal, but very, very little. There was no news, no bulletins, no anything. We didn't know if we were the only troops in the Pacific or if there were 2 or 3 Army divisions on the next island. We knew absolutely nothing.
Sid, did y'all lose a bunch of guys out of your outfit on Guadalcanal?
Did we what?
You lose a bunch of the troops?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, that was some awesome fighting there.
And the health conditions were so bad too. Almost everyone had malaria or hepatitis or some form of jungle fever or dengue or something, and the skin conditions were awful. That you developed ulcers all over your skin that would not heal, and we landed with 10 days supplies, but they did not get the ships unloaded before the ships had to leave. So we didn't even have our 10 days of supplies when we went in there, and we'd have all starved to death if the Japanese didn't have a big warehouse full of rice. And we ate Japanese rice 2 tablespoons twice a day for weeks and weeks and weeks there with somebody checking the roster. You couldn't go through the chow line twice.
You still don't like rice, do you?
It's not my favorite food.
I'll bet.
Well, Sid, we want to thank you for being here with us tonight. And tonight we are having a great time with a good friend here in the Scuttlebutt seat, author, patriot, movie star, great American, Dr. Sidney Phillips.
PFC Phillips.
PFC
Phillips.
Sir.
Get up here, Phillips. Get up here. What's the matter with you? What you doing out there? Dr. Phillips, we see the War movie that came out, and you played a big part in that and was an advisor to that. Then the Pacific was there, and you certainly played an awesome part in that. How much of that is, and what they did or what they showed us is, say, true? And then how much of it would you say that, we could have seen or whatever, but we weren't able to see? Where were we at with that?
It's hard to put a percentage number on that. I think your question is really how realistic the movies are. And I've always said that no war movie or documentary is ever totally realistic. You just cannot show the odors, the boredom. You cannot show the heat and the misery in the hull of a troop ship when we have a storm and they batten down the hatches on the equator and you're down there dripping sweat hour after hour after hour. These things cannot be put into a movie. It cannot show you the miserable food. The food on a troop ship is really bad.
It goes back. I'm sure they didn't serve the rice now.
They did not serve rice, but we had Spam until we just
yes,
great.
We
Spam.
detested the name, but much of this the Pacific is accurate. The uniforms are accurate. The equipment is pretty accurate. They put an unnecessary spin into several places. The most glaring error that it really infuriated me when I saw it was there's a scene of 1st Marine troops riding on a train in Australia, and one of the Marines shoots a cow out of the train window. We would never own anything but electric trains in Australia. What they show is a steam train. The boy that would have done that, first of all, we had no live ammunition. We'd been shaken down before we got to Australia. Right. It was a court-martial offense if you had any live ammunition. But if he had secretly saved a round of ammunition and killed a cow in a pasture like that, they would have put him under the brig. Yes. He would have still been in Portsmouth probably. Yeah. So that to me was a great mistake to put that in a movie. It gave the Marine Corps a bad look.
Well, it was an untruth.
It was an untruth.
Right.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, you guys went on board that island, and as you say, you're not knowing what you were being confronted with or anything. Really, the recon is as we know it these days in time, where we have knowledge about what's going on, and we can look at everything with satellites and all of this stupid stuff. You guys didn't have any of that, so y'all didn't know what in the hell you were getting involved in.
Correct.
And what kind of hell that was going to be presented to you when you got there.
Correct. But on the other hand, we were so stupid and so green and so young that we had no idea what normal war was supposed to be. Okay. And we had 1 or 2 or maybe 3 old veterans in our company.
Watch it now.
And one of them had been at Belleau Wood.
He
was our Gunny Dixon. And we had a lieutenant that was a sergeant one morning, and they made him a lieutenant that afternoon. He'd been in the Marine Corps about 6 or 8 years, so we had several sergeants that maybe had 6 or 8 years service. So we had a scattering of old-timers.
So that would have been part of the old breed.
They were the true old
That's
breed.
the old Corps there, buddy.
The old Corps.
Yeah, their serial numbers were 1 and 6.
Exactly.
Well, Sid, you mentioned how Hollywood, although they've depicted things fairly straightforward, they did take some, I guess you could say, some artistic liberties with some of the things in the movies that you disagree with. But you had an opportunity to set some of those stories straight in your book that you recently penned. It's called "You'll Be Sorry: A Guadalcanal Marine Remembers the Pacific War." And when did you first start thinking about putting all of this down on paper and writing a book about your experiences?
My children, my 2 boys in particular, kept begging me to write down some of my memoirs. Said, "Daddy, we'll get that stuff all backwards." And so I finally started doing it, and I'd write about an hour a week and maybe nothing for 2 weeks, and then maybe 3 or 4 hours in a row. But it was very easy. I wanted a book of nothing but memoirs, things that I remembered. Of course, old Marines know that it's nothing but a bunch of sea stories, which is all right. But
that's okay if you get a bunch of Marines together. That they're going to tell them each other back and forth anyway.
Yeah, that'll sell.
Exactly. But it is just the things that I remember clearly in my mind that I recalled from the Pacific War. I suppose you could write 20 books like this from your memory. Certainly, I could add to it with a lot more, but I never will.
Well, I think that's one of the best things in reading your book, and I've actually gone through it a couple of times. But it's not a glamorous portrayal of either yourself or of your service or the war. It really is a very, I think it's a very down-to-earth perspective. Almost, I tell people, it shows the war through the view of a local Mobilian, and how you came to, as you told us earlier, how you came to get involved in the war and join the Marine Corps, but you never stray too far from those hometown roots and everything that you tell in your book.
That's true. That's true, yeah. I was anxious to get out of the Marine Corps from the day I joined to the day I got out. But I had signed up.
You had a short-timer's attitude.
I had signed up regular for 4 years, so the war ended and I got out. It all coincided perfectly.
And in your stories, one of the great stories in your book is when you came back home. And you went down, I think I may have been the Merchants National Bank, First National Bank, and you met someone that was going to be a great part of your life there at the bank.
You're referring to the girl I married, yeah.
We hope.
She was a great girl. We had a 54-year honeymoon, and leukemia finally got her in the year 2000 after 54 years of marriage.
Well, but I think one of the wonderful things, the way you tell it in the book, is that you were glad for the war because it's kept her single.
It kept her single. That's correct. I was so happy the Japs bombed Pearl Harbor.
You got something good out of it, Doc?
I got something good out of it, right.
You got aimed in the right direction. You got that doctor's degree.
Absolutely. Well, if any of our listeners are interested in getting some more information on the book or about Sid, you have a website, don't you, Sid?
I do. It's called Marine Sid Phillips.
MarineSidPhillips.com. That's pretty easy to remember. And they can get additional information about your book. They can get additional information on your speaking engagements and things of that nature as well.
Some of it's true.
No guarantees?
Well,
no
guarantees. Well, you have to
full-fledged jarhead.
You have to keep them on their toes, huh?
Exactly.
Well, I tell you that if there's anybody out there that has not read your book and they've seen the Pacific and they have an interest in that, especially if they're from the local area, your book is a fantastic walk through the eyes of somebody that's from Mobile into all those places they may have seen on HBO or on PBS in the war, or in any of the other artistic ventures about World War II, because it's told from such a straightforward view, has such tremendous humility to it. And one of the things, being Marines, I guess we're all Marines in here at this point, but one of the things you tell throughout, and I think is part of that esprit de corps that brings the Marines together, but you tell stories in there of Marines doing one thing to another, and they'd turn around and they'd walk off, and you keep quoting, there's no modesty, no sympathy, and there's just no respect given at all.
No. Correct. No compassion.
No compassion. We're all in this together, and you're going to have to suffer through like everybody else. But even with that, you never left anybody behind.
If somebody said something civil to you, you almost felt like they didn't like you.
Yeah, you kind of wondered at that point, huh? But it is sort of that down to earth tone throughout the book, and telling some harrowing stories that people have seen depicted on the big screen. And as you said, they might have taken some artistic liberties along the way with some of them. But we really thank you for being here with us tonight. We're going to have more with you on the other side of the break. So when we come back, we'll have more with Sid. Hopefully we'll get some of your calls when we return in just a few moments on the Scuttlebutt Radio program, a voice of the veterans for the veterans.
Hit a lick against what's wrong, or say a word for what's right, even though you get walloped for saying that word. Now, I may sound like a Bible beater yelling up a revival at a river crossing camp meeting, but that don't change the truth none. There's right and there's wrong. You gotta do one or the other. You do the one and you're living. You do the other and you may be walking around, but you're dead as a beaver hat.
It's Scuttlebutt Radio with your hosts, Tom Claxton and Cal Walters. Radio for veterans, by veterans. To get on the line, call 343-0106 now.
Welcome back to the Scuttlebutt Radio program, a voice of the veterans for the veterans on 106.5 FM and streaming live on FMTalk1065.com. Along with Tom Claxton, I'm Cal Walters, a couple of old Marines with just a little bit to say, the First Amendment right to say it, and we still got the fighting spirit to keep it. And I tell you what, I think I'd go toe-to-toe and side-by-side with Dr. Sid Phillips, and I think he's got the fighting spirit to keep it as well. So welcome aboard again, a great American patriot. And did I forget to mention he is a Marine, Dr. PFC Sid Phillips. Thanks for being with us, Sid.
It's good to be here.
You got to keep those Marines out in front. Hey, Sid, before we jump into to the remainder of the conversation, we want to welcome Jeff to the conversation tonight. Jeff, how are you doing?
Good evening, Devil Dogs.
Hoorah! How are you?
Hoorah! Hey, I wanted to ask Dr. Phillips if he was going to have a book signing in the area, Mobile Bay area, anytime soon.
Not that I know of.
Well, I tell you what, that's a fairly simple answer. But you know what, Jeff? We're actually going to have a book signing here in just a couple of seconds. Sid will sign one of his books for you, and we'll have it here at the radio station for you to pick up. How does that sound?
That makes my day. Thank you, Dr. Phillips, for writing your book and for everything that you've done for us. And you guys there at Scuttlebutt Radio, we love y'all. Y'all keep up the great work.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, Sid, it's great to hear that type of enthusiasm from callers, and I'm sure you see it. Goodness knows you tell me of your travels. You're going to Pittsburgh, you're going to L.A., you're on this red carpet, you're on that red carpet, interviewed by Tom Hanks, and goodness knows how many more. But one thing that I've heard you mention in some of your talks is your generation has come to be known as the greatest generation, and goodness knows that it is well deserved for the things that you did, not only in the war, but when you came back and continued to build this country. But you take a slightly different take on the greatest generation concept, right?
The greatest generation is a superlative concept, and I just don't go along with that. I feel like the greatest generation is yet to come, and it'll be the generation of Americans that turn this country back to God. And I love the Marine Corps because, to me, it's the greatest patriotic organization in the world, and I'm proud to be a part of it. And I'm happy that it exists. If it didn't, we'd have to start it right now and invent it.
Absolutely. Well, we'd have to find a local tavern here and get things started. Huh?
Exactly.
Tom's Tavern.
Tom's Tavern. I think that shut down a long time ago, brother.
Oh, yeah. But you know what, Cal? It really makes me feel proud. There's somebody that I know that's got a smaller serial number than mine. At least I don't have the smallest serial number in the house tonight.
Well, by the time they got to me, Tom, they stopped all that serial number stuff.
Oh, I know it. They give you guys your Social Security numbers. Oh,
That's right. That was never meant to be used as identification.
I'm glad to find somebody older than I am. Once in a while, I run into somebody that's older than I am, and it's quite a thrill.
Oh, yeah, it's neat to know that there is somebody out there.
I'm only 87, but every once in a while, I run into somebody that's older.
Boy, I tell you what, don't slow down because I'll run over you.
Oh, he's not slowing down. He should. When he walked in and sat down tonight, he said he'd been out chopping wood all day in the sun.
Chainsawing.
I'm chainsawing. Okay.
Oh, that's still tough.
I can't chop anymore.
I bet you could.
Well, we're all blessed, though, Doc. We was talking earlier about the fact that you interned at the old city hospital in Mobile in the 50s. And the first month there, how many babies did you deliver?
I did 250 in 1 month.
Oh, wasn't they blessed?
I had the whole OB service by myself. There were only 16 interns in the hospital then.
Awesome. But, hey, just look at all the people that you brought into this world and then all the people that, you helped save by being a Marine over at Guadalcanal.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, Sid has touched so many lives in and out of his service. And, Sid, as you tour the country and you give talks and you speak to the next generation, what are some of the ideals that you try to impart to them as you talk to them?
Cal, I feel like our nation is in greater peril right now than it has ever been, even during the War of 1812 when the British burned Washington. And my sister and I have the same idea. We want to spend the rest of our life doing what we can to revive patriotism and godliness in this country and to turn the morality of it around and bring us back to what got us to where we are. The Founding Fathers were all Christian men, and our Constitution is really written from the Bible, giving instructions on how to form a government. And we're in need of bringing it back. And I want to do all that I can to help take my part in that. Well,
you're doing a great job of it tonight, and because as you heard with our caller, we are touching a lot of lives out there, and your message is getting out across the airwaves and across the internet these days. Hey, Tom, that's on a computer, just so you know.
Oh, is that what the internet is?
Yeah, that's on the internet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Sid's going to tell me about that after a while.
But it is a fantastic message. You mentioned you were going to be off to speak in Pittsburgh here coming up soon.
NRA annual meeting.
What are they wanting? What do they expect? Are you supposed to come in with a coonskin cap and the rifle and all that, or?
I'll just do my usual telling of lies. I don't know what. I don't know what the program will be, but
that's my hero. That is my hero.
I don't have to study.
Well, it's true, and I know you joke about telling lies, but the best part of it is, when you're speaking from the heart, and I know that you are whenever because I've heard you speak on a number of occasions, and I know you are speaking from the heart. You and your sister Catherine, both. You don't have to worry about making it up as you go along, because it's written deep down inside you, and that's what comes out in your book. It comes out when people meet you, and it's that genuine spirit of patriotism that you have. And anything we can do, don't be a stranger to the Scuttlebutt Network. You're always welcome to come and share your very real brand of patriotism with us, Sid.
Thank you.
Well, and we've been blessed to having you on tonight, Sid.
Well, and it certainly has been a blessing. Sid, is there anything you'd like to any last remarks you'd like to leave our listeners with?
I don't believe so. I think we've covered it pretty well.
That is fantastic. Well, again, we certainly appreciate you being here with us tonight and sharing your stories and of your time in and out of the Corps. Again, for those that might want some additional information about Sid, his books, his experiences, you can go to www.marinesidphillips.com, and there you will find a wealth of information. You can also get information on his book, You'll Be Sorry, a Guadalcanal Marine Remembers the Pacific War. And there's clips and audio and just a wealth of information. So, Sid, we thank you again for being with us tonight. Please, again, don't be a stranger to the Scuttlebutt seat. And that's going to bring us to the close of tonight's edition of the Scuttlebutt Radio program.